Hello and welcome to Rauta's Underground Trio. Once again, we have three different bands, or actually more, but three different releases with three different styles. Technically speaking, we're talking about five different bands because one of these three albums here in question is a split release between three different bands. So without further ado, quick alphabetical introduction, and then from worst to best according to my own opinion. Obviously, feel free to disagree. First, German, very old school stuff from the 80s, Antichrist. Now, there's obviously a lot of those bands with the same name, but this is very early 80s, as far as 1982. Then we have Defuntos from Portugal. As far as I can see, this wasn't even released on Metal Archives yet, or listed, but it's a 2025 release. And then we have this split release I was talking about, Sardonic Witchery, Decayed, and Lord of Contagion. Well, I guess that's pretty much of it. So, three black metal bands on a split. One something that is more like doom black, and then something from the very old school ways. Now, this is very difficult for me to decide, and I'm thinking this could go other way around, but maybe I'll pick actually the Defuntos here first. This is a band that has been out there for quite some time. They are not newbies. They have released multiple releases, but it is the first time I actually hear them. And to be honest, I can pretty much already agree and stated it's not really, my cup of tea so much. I get what these guys are after, and I'm sure there is some kind of a marginal audience for this kind of music. But combining doom and black metal is something that is very difficult. Never has been my cup of tea, mostly because what I want from black metal is usually aggression or some kind of darkness or evil feeling. And when you have none of that, well, it's just gonna say, hey, it's like a non-alcoholic beer. Why would I care? But like I said, there are people who are right up for this alley and they are probably gonna get interested in this one. Now, technically speaking, this isn't so much like a doom black because it's just kind of a mid-tempo black metal. I mean, it's not really like this is some Black Sabbath or Electric Resort or whatever riffing, but I mean, I get it why this is listed as doom black, because there are some ideas which don't really fold in for that easily into the world of black metal for that part. So as such, it feels like doom black is kind of a fitting for this kind of band. First of all, lots of these ideas don't really sound black metal either. So it's more like, so if you don't have this kind of slow pace stuff going on and you don't really sound like black metal, while not sounding exactly your typical doom metal, what's it supposed to be? It's not really like we're talking about sludge either. But let it just slide and you figure out for yourself whether you like it or not. For me, this is too much like in a snail mode thing. Snail mode. The point here is they go slow and they're kind of building the atmosphere, but never comes thick enough for me. I mean, that's just maybe my problem, but in the end, I'm like, so you don't have the really captivating riffs, you don't really have that kind of atmosphere I'm looking for, and you don't really have that aggression or evil, dark feeling what I'm looking for. So what do you have to offer? And it's like, it's almost like a vegan going to a meat-only restaurant and figuring out there's nothing for me to eat. This album has very, very little for me to offer. It's not like even the production is so solid that I would be like, okay, at least that's good. And when it comes to the vocals, yeah, it's like, nope. But it's not bad. It's just, falling between some kind of places or moments or feelings or whatever that it kind of goes between in a fashion that doesn't really stick. I don't know how to really put it out because when I'm listening to this, I don't find, I'm annoyed. I'm not obnoxious. I'm not like, I hate this music so much. But it just kind of leaves me with the bland feeling. I could easily listen to some radio channel and figuring out this is not my cup of tea and say same things about this. But at least with the radio songs, I could say pretty much like at least these are so pro-made that, you understand why certain decisions were made and certain elements of production were made. With this one, not so much. So it's a tricky pony for a lot of us out there. But if Death, not Death Doom, but Black Doom kind of a thing is your cup of tea, maybe check it out. For me, mediocrity. Then something roughly from the same levels of quality comes Antichrist, Slaughter in Hell. Now, this is a demo compilation featuring their 1983 and 1986 demos. And as such, obviously, you will hear old school heavy metal or heavy black metal combination here. And as such, they're kind of like predecessor of the whole given genre. Obviously, it sounds a little bit like Venom, and at the same time, nothing like that at all. Comes now with a nice digipack release at this point. This is a few years old release, and as such, a little bit late to the part in terms of reviews, but whatever. I mean, it's not like we're talking about very recent music. This is the track list featuring both of the demos here, which you can see, and another go on this side as well. So, demo 1983 Slaughter in Hell, after which this compilation is named, and then Horror Awakes 3 years later. And that's when the band called it quits, and that's pretty much of it. You have a compilation of photos, and that's pretty much of it. So, in terms of booklet, very cheap, very basic, nothing really to cheer about. Musically, this 62 minutes of an album, is more about quantity than quality. There are some cool parts where it kind of gets into nice heavy metal fashion, but not enough. And then there are parts where you kind of get this black metal feeling to it, pretty much, but different, like early Venom. And you're like, okay, I could see where this band is coming from. I could see where they're trying to go for, but they quit before they made an album. They came back later on, but that's a different story and nothing to do with this particular album of a re-release of demos. Everything here is sounding very, very demo-ish. So it's exactly what you could imagine coming from, 1980s in the demo level. Not as bad as some of the later era demos, so there was at least some understanding what they were doing. They could play their instrument, do the vocals, blah, 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 but it's still demo compilation. Let's be honest about it. So don't expect anything of, even the 90s, not to mention 2000s production values. There are lots of, people doing better home recordings than what this compilation includes, but that is what it is. And what can I say is that if you're interested in the history of early black metal adjacent bands, this could be your cup of tea. But if you never liked Venom, for instance, you're not gonna like this one either. This is so much more unpolished, unfigured out kind of a thing. I mean, Venom was clearly ahead of their time compared to this one, but it kind of goes without saying. And if you compare to, say, early Celtic Frost to this one, they're so much more violent and heavier than this one. Mind you, where Celtic Frost is really the first wave of black metal with Bathory and the like, they're so much more violent and raw and all that stuff. This is more closer to heavy metal than your idea of black metal is most likely going to be. So if you listen to this one, expect more like heavy metal with a little bit of black metal seasoning rather than the other way around. So as a compilation, more like a product of interest, not so much quality stuff, but we're giving a go if you want to listen to historical parts. So the best of the pile here, obviously, pretty easily is this compilation, split, as it's supposed to be. These are all three Portugal-based bands, so it's a split, and sometimes it's hard to separate which one is the better, because these are all actually pretty good quality. For example, Sardonic Witchery and the Law band here, Law of Contagion, they are pretty much the same. Kind of fast-paced, energetic, melodic black metal, very traditional in the sense, and nothing out of ordinary. As you can see, this has quite a list of songs here, 4 by 2 later bands and 3 by the first ones, including intro tracks. And the Decayed in the middle is a little bit more thrashier than the 2 other bands, but all in all, this actually makes sense in a split. They are all very comparable, and as such, there are no weak links. I actually like all of these bands. None of them are boring or weak or mediocrity, but none of them neither shines like a diamond, meaning that they are very much like quite good, but not there yet for a cigar and glass of whiskey. If I had to pick my winner, I guess I would go with the Law one. They have the best production and maybe the best songwriting too. But all in all, these are pretty comparable, like said. Neither of these really have nothing that is revolutionary, but not weak either. So, like I said, it's pretty much nice 45 minutes or so a ride, which takes you through different bands and might actually, create a level of interest towards each one of these. Previously, I have heard most of Sardonic Witchery, and I know them that they have this kind of hidden listing. Some of are better, some are worse, but decent band overall. And this kind of just emphasize that feeling. But if I had to pick the winner, like I said, this would be the one I would check out first. So this is the split release by these three different bands. If I got you interested, all these three releases have their respective links in the description box, so you can start figuring out where to get more information, where to buy their albums if I got you interested, or at least give them a go and listen. Now you know a little bit more. So old school black metal, heavy metal, a little bit later era black metal split, and in the middle you have this doom black thing going on, also from Portugal. So off you go, check out the bands, and I hope you find something likable. If not, blame it on yourself. Bye.